Good evening, all. It is Wednesday, February 20th, 2019, and we are continuing our big finale episodes, closing out our fourth season, and this is our Oscar preview. Hi, everybody. My name is Jonathan Betzler. I'm one of your hosts here this evening on the now award-nominated No Name Cinema Society. And tonight on the Oscar preview, me and the panel is going to go over what we think will win, which, last year I was 9 for 9. Last 2 years, I think I've been 9 for 9. What should win out of the 5 nominees, or 8 nominees in one particular case. And we're also going to tell you each of our choices for what should have been nominated. For in 9 different categories. So let me get to introducing my panelists, ladies and gentlemen. Let's starting with, he's no Freddie Mercury, but he does do Bohemian Rhapsody when we do karaoke, not necessarily well. Ladies and gentlemen, Jim Carroll's back.
Why, hello.
How you doing? And also with us, ladies and gentlemen, is my favorite, at least until someone younger and more ambitious comes along. The kid, Ryan Turner, is here.
Hello.
This is a big night for you, Ryan, because this is actually your swan song. This will be your last show with us at the No Name Cinema Society.
What's his name? Brett Favre. He retired a lot of times, so we'll see if I continue.
He's going to come out of retirement.
But for now, yeah.
It all depends on how tonight goes. If he bombs tonight, he's going to feel the need to redeem himself in our 5th season. Are you guys just as excited as I am about our nomination as Best Nonfiction Series at the Indie Series Awards?
I mean, I'm super excited about it. I'm looking for. I'm not on the right coast for them, so I'll be looking forward to hearing what won.
I want to thank both of you and everyone else that's a member of the society for all their hard work in our 4th season to help get us that nomination. I revealed the other night that I watched 112 films from 2018, matching my total from 2017. So the big question for you guys is, how much did you get to this year? Ryan, last year you were at 40. What'd you get this year?
43.
43. You upgraded it a little bit. All right. So you're going to have a wider breadth of films to talk about. Very exciting. Yeah. Ryan's got 43. What are you at?
I saw a few more movies than Ryan. I saw 45.
All right, let's get right into the Oscars here, guys. First category, I feel like a game show host. Our first category is Alex Trebek. Give me Best Cinematography. And this is actually a tougher category to predict. I think it's a 2-movie race, both black and white films. I am actually going to predict a somewhat of an upset. I think actually Cold War is going to win. It won the ASC award, which is Lucas Zal's cinematography. I think Roma would have won if Cuarón didn't shoot it himself. I feel like the Academy is going to opt to spread the love around. They're not going to give him 3 or 4 Oscars in a single night. That's just crazy town. So I think Cold War is going to pull this one out. Does anyone disagree with me that Cold War is going to win this cinematography?
I think they'll give it to Roma.
You personally think it's a Roma thing? All right, so we have some disputes here. We don't have too many of them normally in the will win, because a lot of them are obvious. But I grant this one is less obvious, and it's close between the two. Jim, what do you think?
I also had Roma down to win.
So the next thing is what we think should win based on the nominees. Ryan, do you also think Roma should win, or do you have something else here?
I actually was pretty impressed with A Star is Born. I thought it was quite beautiful cinematography. I think watching that movie, whatever you feel about the movie, I thought Matthew Liebitzik did a really good job.
I never said I hated the movie.
I'm just saying some people do. I've known a lot of people that did not like it at all. I thought it was pretty impressive. I enjoyed it.
James had it as his number 2 movie in his top 10 last night. I thought it was a good movie, not a great movie. But what I said last night is I just don't understand why it was remade at all. I mean, there's nothing original or new, compared to the other 3 versions, or if you count What Price Hollywood. The cinematography I thought was fine. I wouldn't have it in my top 20. But then again, I saw 112 films this year. Jim, what do you think should win?
I really thought Roma was the one that stood out to me the most of them. I have to say I'm going to be boring and just say Roma.
Well, I mean, you're boring anyway, so
true.
It's no difference. For me, Roma was impressive in the blocking for the camera. Like, I really liked the choice to use solitary takes. And yes, it was very well orchestrated and lit. And, I might get to that when we get to a different category. But there's some cinematography I liked a little more. I also reject this idea that black and white is more difficult. It's actually not. Every time there's a sharp black and white film, it gets nominated, and I don't subscribe to that theory necessarily. For me, I have the other foreign film that we haven't talked about as is what I think should win. I wasn't blown away by any of these nominees, but I do think Zooey Deschanel's dad did do some lovely work in the epic German film Never Look Away. I think it was gorgeous. My only concern is I felt like they used the soft light way too often. It seemed to lack variety, and I feel like certain scenes needed something a little harsher. Still, it was lovely to look at. I just would have done it differently in other moments. Jim, I don't suppose you have any thoughts on Never Look Away?
For cinematography, no.
Ryan, anything on Never Look Away?
Haven't seen it.
It's a hard one to find. I actually raced to the Laemmle Theater in Westwood just a couple Saturdays ago to see it because it was only playing for like a week. But I did get to see the director talk afterwards. That was kind of fun. So now the next thing up is should have been nominated. Jim.
So I had down First Man.
Okay, very cool. I think that was Linus Sandgren that shot that. Did you look it up?
Linus Sandgren? Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think it looked better than La La Land?
La La Land I thought was colorful and beautiful. As far as the story and my interests, I was definitely pulled into it a little bit more.
I don't have any quibbles with the cinematographer for First Man. I don't remember it standing out, but I also don't remember it bumping really. Do you have a preference between First Man and Roma? What's your number one cinematography of the year?
I still have to go with Roma. I mean, from the beginning shot of the plane in the water, there's shots in Roma where I remember stopping it and just admiring the shot and thinking that how beautiful the composition was.
And you weren't really engaged in the story then, were you?
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there.
Ryan, what should have been nominated that was not?
So, yeah, I was just kind of thinking about that. I mean, movies that stood out to me, I think Annihilation was one that I thought was really beautiful.
That's funny. Out of all the 112, I actually missed that one from the director of Ex Machina, which made my top 10 in 2015.
Yeah, it still stuck with me. And I know that there's many factors besides the cinematography.
Do you know who the cinematographer was?
It's Rob Hardy.
Okay, cool. So Annihilation and First Man are warranting of nominations according to these guys. The film I have is a little different. And you have to remember that cinematography is not just lighting, but it's framing as well and camera movement. And for me, Sean Bobbitt's work in Widows from director Steve McQueen puts all those elements together more than any film I saw this year. It was a mix of high contrast lighting and gritty cityscape, whatever the scene called for. It's terrific camera movement, including my favorite shot of the year that follows a car around a Chicago neighborhood. Some brilliant stuff in Widows. I don't know if you guys have seen that one.
I didn't end up seeing Widows. I really wanted to. I'm going to be seeing it soon, but I heard great things about it. I like beautiful films, obviously, but I just think it's different uses of camera, and there's so many different factors to cinematography in terms of the whole team.
And that's what I was talking about, too, with the different aspects between framing,
Absolutely,
lighting, and camera movement. Jim, Widows?
I didn't see Widows.
Okay. That allows us to move right along. Let's see what the next category is. Adapted screenplay, and this one I feel a little more confident about. It's a two-horse race again, but I think the Academy will remember that they just rewarded Barry Jenkins 2 years ago, and that they owe Spike Lee, who's one of the four writers on Black Klansman. So I think Black Klansman wins here. Does anyone disagree? Jim disagrees. What do you think is going to win?
I gave it to If Beale Street Could Talk.
That's the close one. It's a closer race. Yeah. It's entirely possible. The buzz in the industry, I don't know if Ryan has sensed this in LA. Jason Blum's been on the news talking about how Spike Lee is owed and he's not going to win Best Director. And this is a chance to give Spike Lee an Oscar. It'll be hard to pass up. Ryan, whose side are you on?
Yeah, I think you make a compelling case. I do think Black Klansman could take it. Absolutely. I actually was just listening to a podcast about The Real Story. And the story in itself is so insane.
And I know they took a lot of liberties, which is, a lot of people have been complaining about that. I'm not so worried about that personally. Like, a good storyteller is a good storyteller. You have to walk the line. You can't lie if you're presenting something as a true story. Like, liberties I'm okay with. So it's hard to know. Ryan and I think Black Klansman. So, you out there with your Oscar pools, you can decide who you trust more, because there'll be a little more disagreement. So now the question's going to become, and I have a feeling Jim and I might be in sync on this one. Jim, what should win?
If Beale Street Could Talk should win.
We are not in sync then. Why should it win?
I thought If Beale Street Could Talk was a good adaptation of a James Baldwin, brought it to life. I thought Black Klansman as a script was good. Of those five, Beale Street was the strongest for me.
Okay, I'm going to disagree because I think there's a better example of the art of adaptation in these five. Out of the nominees, in my top five, I do have one of these films, screenplays. We'll see if Ryan agrees with me. Ryan, what do you have as should win out of these nominees?
So the one film, I know you'll hear about it later, but I haven't seen Can You Ever Forgive Me, so I haven't seen that nominee. But, I actually kind of think in terms of what he was able to do with the script, I really liked what he did with BlacKkKlansman. So that's kind of, I'm going to stick with.
Ryan says BlacKkKlansman is the right choice. The script is the best thing about it. For me, I think a true example of the art of adaptation is The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, which is one of my top 5 screenplays of the year. I like this film a lot. It didn't make my top 10, 12 or 13 maybe, though. I enjoyed it quite a bit. The Coen brothers made this book of short stories their own. They turned it into a Coen brothers thing. As with anything so fragmented, some sequences are better than others, which is what kept it off my top 10, honestly. But the skill of the writing is unquestionable. I think it's a terrific adapted screenplay, great screenplay in general. Sounds like you guys have both seen the film, so I'll check with Jim first. Why do you disagree?
There were vignettes that were definitely stronger than others.
I feel like I just said that.
Oh, did you? Sorry. Yes, that's exactly why. I also feel instead of one cohesive narrative story, I feel it's weird to give it to essentially 5 short films.
I don't. I actually think that's a greater accomplishment. Basically, it's 5 adaptations.
If you don't have 5 solid hits, should you be able to stand next to this one person who wrote a really great 2-hour-long adaptation?
Except I didn't like Beale Street Can Talk, and I didn't like any of these other nominees, not a one. So, I mean, for me, 4 of the 5 shorts and Buster Scruggs were great, and it was the last one I didn't like. But everything else I thought was just beautiful and awesome. Process of elimination is the phrase I'm looking for. I didn't like Beale Street Could Talk at all. That wasn't even in consideration. Ryan, what do you think about Ballad of Buster Scruggs?
It was entertaining, and some of the shorts I think will stick with me for a lot longer than others. Those shorts were pretty incredible, like the Tom Waits one. Great.
That was my favorite as well.
I still think BlacKkKlansman to me impressed me with the screenplay level.
I personally was with BlacKkKlansman ahead of Beale Street. I understand what you're saying, Jim. Like it's this, very unique novel and story that he's making to be cinematic. But I mean, like, I'm not so sure how cinematic he made it. You know what I mean? Like, I think the award is just almost for the effort of trying and not necessarily succeeding, in adapting the James Baldwin novel. I thought mostly boring, staid and talky. And I didn't feel like it was an interesting movie, and it was slow. So I feel like it's highly overrated. I feel like it struggles under its own weightiness. Long sequences of the 2 lovers staring at each other feels like way too much. It has a lot to say about life as a Black person in America, and none of it's good. But instead of just telling the story and let us feel it for ourselves, the film preaches to us, screenplay preaches to us.
I really enjoyed the chemistry. I thought sure, it's a slow movie. I didn't mind that. I liked it. You didn't.
I really didn't like it.
It sounds like you really didn't like it.
All right, so now it should have been nominated, and both of these guys are writers, so it should be interesting to see what they say. Oh, I forgot who I had going first. Okay, looks like it's going to be Ryan going first.
Out of the movies I saw this year, Death of Stalin really stood out to me. I mean, it's one of my favorite films of the year. I really loved what they did with it in terms of not only tone, but the comedy, the way they touched on the historical nature of things. I thought it was really great.
That's a really great choice. Actually, that is also one of my top screenplays of the year. I think I have it as my second or third best adapted screenplay. It's one of the last films I watched. I think it was Saturday or something. I thought it was really sharp. Armando Iannucci, the creator of Veep, was one of the writers and the director. You're on point with the tone. Like, that was so carefully done and extremely well written. Great pace. I loved a lot about the movie. It didn't make my top 10, but the screenplay stood out for sure. So I think that's a great choice. Jim, your choice probably won't be as great.
Well, you wouldn't know because it's Annihilation.
That's interesting because Ex Machina was original, wasn't it?
Yes, I think it was. Annihilation from a science fiction trilogy.
What do you like about the screenplay of Annihilation?
Annihilation is a difficult premise as it is. This event happens that is changing the nature of nature.
I think that should have been the blurb on the poster.
And I think it does a really nice job of giving us separate, deep, unique characters, still building towards a good resolution and making pretty logical choices for these characters, for the paths they all follow throughout the whole thing, as varied as they are. It was really interesting, and it stuck with me after.
Both of you guys have brought it up already, and this is the third mention. I missed it. I was intrigued earlier in the year, but the films that come out earlier in the year I almost miss because I'm so busy watching the films from the year before for these shows. Ryan, you also liked the film, it sounded like.
Yeah, I think that's definitely one of my top picks too. I haven't read the book, so I don't know. I was kind of reading about different interpretations of the adaptation for Annihilation, but I think the screenplay was really compelling, and I really thought from a visceral experience, it's definitely one of my favorites I've seen.
And I've got a film that you guys probably didn't bother with, but it's a film that I wish Ryan had directed because it's such a great script that's ruined by its director, who's trying to show off with slow-mo sequences, silly action, and pandering to the audience with a broad tone. But the words, however, are there. Like, the script is there. The story is fun and taut and smart and deep. And I'm talking about a comedy called Tag from this summer. The characters are rich and real, well-rounded people that you might meet on the street. It felt wonderful to see that kind of character in a comedy of this ilk. In spite of the direction, the theme of lasting friendship lands in a new and unusual way, not in the kind of trite way that they didn't earn. They earn this. The script has a tight 3-act structure without ever really feeling formulaic. It's a flawed film, to be sure, but that shouldn't penalize the script because of the direction. It's great story, great dialogue, great characters. It's funny and meaningful, and I feel like that's exactly what you might want from a film like this. I don't suppose anybody has seen or bothered with Tag.
You're right. I did not bother with Tag.
I actually heard great things about Tag, and I heard that, that script had been circling for a while and with a lot of different people attached, but I actually did want to see it. I was curious about it because I actually heard it was one of those movies that stood out, that actually wasn't just the generic thing it looked like.
And now you heard it from more than one person.
Yeah, I'm adding it to my list.
I meant what I said. In your hands, or my hands, quite frankly, but you being a comedy specialist, the movie would have been 10 times better. It would have flew. Like, I feel like you would have found the groundedness and the humor the way you tend to do. I felt like the director was working against the script in this particular case, which is a shame. But the script I thought was outstanding. Jim, do you feel silly for not bothering with it now?
I mean, I guess I'll have to go back and watch it.
You always say that, but you never actually do.
I do. I go back and watch plenty of movies.
You're right. I'm confusing you with Davey. All right, we're going to move on, guys, to the next category. Boom. Original screenplay. And in this category, I have none of the 5 nominees in my top 5 original screenplays. In this category, I think one of Ryan's favorite directors made a film that I think is going to win. I think the favorite is the favorite in this category. Is there any disagreements there?
No.
Jim agrees?
I would probably put the favorite.
So we're agreed that it's winning. So I guess the question is, what should win? I'm going to start with Ryan because I think he's going to be down with the favorite.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was really clever, and talk about tone again, but it just was a fun movie to watch. And I love Yorgos Lanthimos. I love what he does.
I know you do.
It really impressed me. I when I saw the trailer for it, and the only thing that sold me on it was the fact that Yorgos Lanthimos directed it. I was like, nothing else about the movie trailer, but then the second I saw that he's directing it.
That's so funny. I had the opposite reaction. I'm like, oh, that's finally a Yorgos film I can get behind. I was really excited by the trailer. And I, of course, hated the movie. It left me completely cold. Not my least favorite of the nominees, but close. Maybe third to last. I just felt like the elements were anachronistic, and he's not trying to ground anything in realism. I get that. His style, his tone, I want nothing to do with it. I hope I never have to watch another one of his films. This is the last chance I'm giving him. My issues were the direction. The one thing about the movie is the performances I really enjoyed, but the script, I didn't think there was much to it. It wasn't interesting. I actually didn't think it was well structured. Jim, did you also think the favorite should win?
I had the favorite down as should win.
You also like the favorite. I'm the cheese that stands alone, as I usually am. I'm the one with the weirdest opinions. Jim didn't like Green Book, but that is on my top 10, and it is my favorite of the Best Picture nominees. I wrote down immediately afterwards saying it's hardly earth-shattering, but sweet, funny, and really well executed. Overall, I think the performances made the movie. That's why it made my top 10 last night. But out of all the nominees listed, I do think it's the strongest. It's very formulaic, but it's an example of where the formula is executed beautifully. It painted its picture in broad strokes. Subtlety and nuance are not on high display. Calling it a reverse driving Miss Daisy isn't really far off. Its lessons and morals are tried and true territory. Not that that's bad. Like, it doesn't offer anything new or highly cinematic, but it's a good story, well told. In a year that I didn't like a lot of films and I didn't connect with a lot, a good story well told counts for a lot. That's why I chose Green Book. Ryan, I assume you're also a hater.
I mean, I can understand some of it, but like some of the backlash, but I actually was thoroughly entertained throughout the movie, and I thought the characters and the performances and the chemistry between the two leads was enough to make the movie enjoyable.
And as I just said, that's what made performances, I think, are the key to the movie. But amongst these nominees, it was the film I liked the most, and there was a lot I liked about the screenplay. It was formulaic, but sometimes that works. I mean, even Casablanca is formulaic. Jim, you look like you really want to tell us what you hated about Green Book.
My problem with Green Book was it as I was watching the movie, all I could feel was this movie was built for the Oscars.
Then you don't hire Peter Farrelly to direct the movie. I don't think that's accurate.
I'm sure it wasn't. But that's how it came off when I saw it. That's how it came off to me.
I agree that it's the structure that we've seen before. There's nothing new about it or fresh, but it's that old thing done really well. And to Brian's point, it's highly entertaining and it has a message. It comes towards the schmaltzy line without ever crossing it, I think, because the performances are so grounded. What it sounds like to me, Jim, is it sounds like you saw it late in the process, after nominations were come out, knowing that it had all these acclaim. You didn't see it because you had already had these high expectations.
You're right that I saw it later on, and that might be true. And maybe at some point in the future, I'll revisit it and like it more. I didn't hate it, and I really did like the performances. With that line up to the schmaltz, I think it just got a little bit too close for me, and maybe it's because I saw it so late.
Yeah, I mean, when you're looking at something, sorry, this has X amount of Oscar nominations, then you're sort of judging it on those things. It's tough. All right, I think that covers what should win. Now, what's going to be very controversial for me should have been nominated. Let's see if Jim has a concept that will also be controversial. What should have been nominated in the best screenplay category?
Oh, I think we're going to fight about this. I think you're going to hate my choice. I'm so excited. Sorry to bother you.
Sorry to Bother You is highly original. So you got that. I mean, Sorry to Bother You jumped the shark for me 2/3 of the way through. I think it's fair to say, and I doubt I'm alone on that. I was intrigued, and then I was done.
Certainly a twist nobody saw coming.
But, sometimes I just feel like some of these things are original for original sake. You know what I mean? Like, instead of coming naturally, or having some grounded meaning, sometimes it felt like it was quirk's sake is the phrase I use very often. But this is beyond quirk. This is just crazy town.
There's certainly a gonzo quality to it. And I'm not saying that it is a perfect script. I thought that the inventiveness and originality and the weird takes on characters were all unique, and it buoyed it through the really crazy turns. And I just, again, it's another script that stayed with me. The story stayed with me much more than the movie itself. And the characters stayed with me much more than the movie itself.
I wonder if Michel Gondry would have been a better choice to direct that particular screenplay. He's handled similar elements in the past with a little more finesse, like with a little more comfort with them. Ryan, I don't suppose you've seen Sorry to Bother You.
I really liked it. I thought, it wasn't necessarily one of my favorite movies, but it definitely stuck with me, and I thought it was super original, and I thought I really appreciated the viewing experience. I thought even what you're talking about, played into it. It didn't, and it kind of, people had built it up before, so I kind of knew something crazy was coming. At the same time, I really enjoyed watching that. My own personal pick is Blind Spotting, which I thought was one of my favorite movies.
Spotting, I just missed my top 10. I literally took it off the top 10 right before the show. I swapped it with something else. The script for Blind Spotting is in my top 5, actually.
I mean, it reminded me of like a Good Will Hunting sort of foray by these two actors and
they grew up together.
I'm from the Bay Area. I was 15 minutes away from where they were. I wasn't obviously from Oakland like that, the streets or anything. But
are you sure, Ryan? Don't try and hide your background.
Whoever doesn't believe that. It resonated with me for a whole other level because it's kind of my home area.
It resonated with me too without being from the Bay Area. Like I said, it nearly made my top 10 films. I brought it up last night on the top 10 when BlacKkKlansman came up because I feel like Blind Spotting is much more dynamic and immediate. It had like a certain immediacy to Blind Spotting that BlacKkKlansman didn't have, without being preachy. And that's my issue with BlacKkKlansman that'll probably come up. Blind Spotting, Jim?
Didn't see it.
Oh, it's time for mine. Highly, highly controversial film. It was met with so much controversy when it came out that it was rushed out of theaters after 2 weeks because it was pretty much considered like completely unwoke. They thought they were making a feminist film, but when the feminists saw this film, they didn't see it that way. But I'm not sure those people watched the whole film. or even watch the film at all, because I feel like the third act of this film seems to address their problem, their concerns directly. And I'm talking about I Feel Pretty, the film starring Amy Schumer. It's made my top 10. It was number 4 last night. And the way I interpret the film is it's not just a feminist film, but a film for everyone with a message about the difficulty and importance that comes with self-image. One just needs to look at the evolution of the Michelle Williams character to see that this film deals with the perceptions and expectations put upon all women, those that are perceived as attractive and ideal just as much as those that are perceived as less so. Yes, the film is funny, but before you know it, you're wrapped up and roped in where it suddenly packs an emotional punch with a message for everyone, not just women. And I feel like the writers that dismissed it had an axe to grind, and they ruined the marketability of the movie with their poison pens. A lot of people never gave it a chance because of all the negative publicity. I think it's a highly subversive film, and Amy Schumer obviously is not going to go out and try and make an anti-feminist film. So the suggestion that it is that seems a little out of bounds to me. Jim, I don't suppose you bothered with this film.
I have a relevant story. Vic is a huge Amy Schumer fan, and she wanted to see this movie. And we got all ready to go out on a date night, and we got to the theater, and it was already out of the theater. Yeah, she looked at me, and she's like, I just left this open. I said, it did.
I was crying. I was bawling at the end of it. I watched it on an airplane. I loved it. Ryan, I don't suppose you saw this one?
I did not see it.
Well, you're clearly an anti-feminist then.
Clearly.
Okay. All right. So I stirred up a little more controversy. This one might be less controversial, guys. Time to move on to the acting nominations. Best Supporting Actor. And I believe the winner will be someone that's come up already. And this one is more of a slam dunk. Out of all these nominees, I have one in my top 5, and it's my number 1. My number 1 supporting actor of the year is someone that I think will win. Mahershala Ali in Green Book, I think, is the best supporting actor of the year. I wrote when I first saw this film that I wasn't sure if it was a leading performance or a supporting performance. I finally decided this was Viggo's movie and it was supporting, so I agree with the Academy in putting it here. And with that, it is by far the strongest performance in this category, and a rare time where I agree with the frontrunner. In a movie that emphasizes performances, Ali shines. It's a perfectly executed arc, extraordinary detail in all aspects of his performance, delivery, gait, nuance. It's a performance for the ages, actually, I think. Jim, first of all, do you think Ali will win?
Yeah, I actually think he will win.
Ryan, do you also think he'll win?
Yes.
Jim, should he?
I'm going to go with another choice that you're going to disagree with, which is I really like Sam Elliott in A Star is Born.
It's such a small role. I mean, I can't imagine they'd beef it up since I saw it a year and a half ago. I know they made changes, but I don't think they would have added. I think they would have subtracted. He was fine, but not enough screen time. Now, you could argue Mahershala Ali has maybe too much screen time for a supporting role, but Sam Elliott's hardly in the movie and barely makes an impact. Certainly not award-worthy.
Judi Dench was in Shakespeare in Love for what?
I don't agree with that either. Don't tell me about Academy history. I know Academy history. I don't have to agree with it. I can argue it all I want to. I feel like Sam Rockwell, same thing, does not belong here at all. Screen time alone, let alone nothing special about a performance. Sam Elliott, at least the performance is better, but he's barely in the movie.
The only reason I went with Sam Elliott was I think of that role, and I think of what he did in it, and every single scene he was in, he made everybody better. He made me care about Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga more because he was so good, and he like grounded both of them.
I don't buy that, and I like the movie a little bit. It's my third favorite of the Best Picture nominees, for what it's worth. I know I've been saying a lot of stuff about it. Ryan, are you with Jim that Sam Elliott should win this?
No, not necessarily. I mean, again, I think that Mahershala was definitely the standout in terms of just overall performance.
You're with me, Mahershala Ali.
Yeah. Like I said, I think him and Viggo Mortensen are the reason the movie was even as good as it was. It was a pretty profound performance, like all across the board.
So it's time for should have been nominated, and this will be interesting. Ryan, I have you going first.
There's no one that really stood out to me. I'm trying to rack my brain.
Okay, Jim, what do you got? Who should have been nominated?
Michael B. Jordan. I think if you're going to nominate Black Panther for anything, Black Panther should not have been a Best Picture nomination, but Michael B. Jordan should have gotten Best Supporting Actor for Eric Killmonger.
I'm going to disagree with you there in the sense that it made my top 10, so I obviously do think should have been a Best Picture nominee. I would not have nominated Jordan, but I also saw so many more movies. He was fine. He was good. I like him very much as an actor, and we've talked about him on previous shows quite a bit. The Society, I think in general, is a big fan of his, and he was good but not great to me. Like, he was fine, strong but not award worthy. I just saw so many other performances for this category that I thought were stronger, one of which I'll tell you about momentarily. Ryan, how you doing?
I liked the nominations. There's no outside person that I really felt deserves that award or over anybody that was in there.
I'm disappointed that you say that, because mine is actually from a movie that you saw and seemed to enjoy. I do have Rafael Casal from Blind Spotting as should have been nominated, my second favorite supporting actor performance of the year. Yes, he co-wrote the screenplay with Daveed Diggs, so he likely wrote to his strengths, but to me, it's hard to deny the results. Casal infuses much needed energy and a fresh voice to this film, captivating and demanding your attention without ever being showy or over the top. I think it's a powerhouse performance that exhibits huge amounts of range. He is hilarious and confused and angry, and those shifts are always believable. A vivid and thorough performance that elevated the film to new heights to me. But Ryan, you're the other one who saw the film, so you feel that these 5 nominees are all better than Raphael.
Yeah, maybe not all the nominees. I guess for me, I'm just so focused on the winner, but I really liked his performance in there, and I could see that easily slipping in. It's hard for me to see because I feel like it was written for him as an actor. Like, it's one of those roles where I feel like he embodies it so much that it's hard for me to see how much is outside of his. But it did really drive the movie, and I really loved his performance in it. So I just didn't feel strong enough to say like I would fight for that one over any of the particular other ones.
For me, Adam Driver, Sam Elliott, and Sam Rockwell have no business being in this category. So I know Jim disagrees. I just don't feel like there's enough meat on those bones to even talk about a nomination. Sam Rockwell was funny in his moments, but I mean, like, he's barely in the film. I mean, Steve Carell I thought was great in that movie and had much more screen time. So that's my choice, Rafael Casal. It's a great performance for those of you who have not seen the film. Maybe check it out. All right, moving on. One more supporting category to get to. Best Supporting Actress. I've got none of these 5 in my top 10. There's some issues with this category that I'll talk about. Maybe they put some leading roles in here. My prediction is Regina King for If Beale Street Could Talk. Does anybody disagree?
No, I think that's a lock-in.
We'll see what you guys think should win. Jim.
Of these 5 nominees, Regina.
She was fine. I don't think she was excellent. Why do you think she should win?
I connected to her performance. I wanted to see more of her story. I was invested in the character.
Ryan, are you in the Regina King bandwagon?
Yes, I think she deserves to win. I would pick her to win. I thought she gave a really powerhouse performance, and especially over the other nominees, I feel like she stands out.
I don't want to say I disliked her, but I mean, I don't think she'd make a top 50, no, maybe top 30 supporting actresses for me. I mean, I don't want to say it's a bad performance. Like, I would say that about actually, I don't think I'd say that about any of these performances. Some of the supporting actor performances I might say that for. But my choice for should win is an actress that I actually would have put in the lead actress category. But based on these nominees, they put her in supporting. And to me, it's the best performance because I actually had her in my top 5 best actresses for a while, but she got knocked out even within the last few days. And that's Rachel Weisz in The Favorite. I think it's a great performance in a movie I didn't love. I just felt like, A, it's a leading role, so I didn't have it in the supporting category, and B, I think there were 5 better leading roles than her. And I think she'd be 6th in my leading actress category. It's the best performance in the movie to me, in a movie where I liked all 3 main performances. It's her movie. I think it's almost reminiscent of a performance nominated in the lead actress category in 1988, which we've been studying and we'll go over tomorrow. Her deviousness is motivated. She hides her intentions from her combatants, but makes it plainly clear to the audience. The need for power overwhelms her, but all the layers that created this quasi-monster are also there and clear under the surface. It's a terrific performance, and to me, it's not even close in this category. I'm surprised you guys disliked her so much, Ryan.
I didn't dislike her. I just thought I would have taken Regina King over Rachel Weisz.
I thought she was great in the film. I thought it was a really impressive performance all throughout, and she was really one of the reasons I liked the movie so much.
Regina was better.
Yeah, I think if you're comparing them next to each other, I think Regina stood out. I think Rachel Weisz did her role in the movie, but and did a really great job. But yeah.
Does anybody feel like I do that it's a leading performance?
Yeah, it's a pretty significant role in there, right?
Jim, are you agreeing?
Yeah, I can see that.
So it's time for should have been nominated. Ryan, I hope you have one.
I'm going to say Claire Foy from First Man.
That was a very popular choice. She got a Golden Globe nomination. I didn't like her in the movie. Strangely, I love Ryan Gosling. I didn't like her. I thought she was pushing. What did you like about her?
You know, you see a lot of these space movies or you see a lot of these astronaut movies and you don't really realize the toll it takes on the people on the ground. And I think for her, she really humanized the toll, that the sacrifice that the family goes through. And I thought she did a wonderful job of embodying that and really made me feel for her.
If you've not seen Zooey Deschanel's mother, whose name escapes me, her work in The Right Stuff, and also Pamela Reed in The Right Stuff, and Kathleen Quinlan in Apollo 13, all those performances achieved similar things, and possibly, I think, especially Kathleen Quinlan, maybe even better. Something to look at if you I don't know if you've seen any of those movies.
Yeah, I've seen Apollo 13.
Do you disagree about Kathleen Quinlan?
I think she's great in it. This offered a unique perspective, in my opinion.
Everyone has loved Claire Foy. I'm a little surprised she didn't get nominated, and the Roma woman did. I would have predicted Claire would have gotten the nomination. I thought First Man was also going to get a score nomination. It's the best scorer I heard all year, and it did not get nominated there. Jim, who do you have should have been nominated?
I have Ashley Atkinson and Black Klansman.
She actually came up top 10 last night. I think it was George that had, but George had Black Klansman as his number 1. And she came up, and we all agreed. It's funny because we talked about it. We thought that the role was too small to be considered for this.
I absolutely disagree. I think this is actually one of the best performances I thought all year.
I agree that it's a great performance. It's a screen time issue for me.
I left the theater thinking about her as a character and how disturbing that she was and the performance that she was able to give.
I'm not going to disagree with you about the meat of, the actual work done. Like when looking at some of these other things that I looked at, it's a screen time issue for me. Like, I just feel like if you're going to be an Oscar, because she's somewhere between supporting actress and cameo as far as I'm concerned. She's like a day player almost. Very strong work though. Ryan, anything on Ashley Atkinson?
No. I agree. I think that it's a good choice. Wasn't my personal choice, but I do agree it was a great performance.
What we're split on is a screen time issue. Do you feel like the role was big enough to be considered for awards?
I think so. Yeah. I'm
outnumbered once again, which leads me to my choice for best supporting actress, and that is the best supporting actress performance I saw this year. And unfortunately, you guys didn't see this movie. Elizabeth Debicki in Widows is the standout in a terrific ensemble. She plays a strong arc and a lot of shifts extremely skillfully. She makes it look easy as her character finds her own sense of self-worth over the course of the movie. It's a terrific performance. She's been on the edge of superstardom in the last few years. I think this movie is going to get seen more once it goes to video. People are going to really start to bring in Elizabeth Debicki. She's also a terrific in an HBO movie called The Tale that came out last year. This is a woman to watch for the future. I know you guys have not seen Widows, so you're in the dark on this.
Yeah, but I'm going to.
Maybe I'll watch it tonight.
A lot of good that does us for the show, Jim. By the time we've done the show, it's going to be 10:30 your time. Okay. What's up next? Oh, yeah. Best Actress in a Leading Role. Here we go. The living person who has the most nominations without a win will finally get her win. That's my prediction. Glenn Close in The Wife, I predict will be the winner. And I will start by saying that I also think she should win. She's also nominated in 1988 for Dangerous Liaisons, which may come up tomorrow night in our 1988 review. In many ways, it's a similar performance in how she played things close to the vest at first and slowly unravels layers to reveal the rage beneath the surface. She creates mystery with her performance. She's impossible to read, but you know something's up for the first 2/3 of the movie. Her character is an expert poker player, and she does it exquisitely. First, I want to ask you guys, do you guys agree that she will win, finally?
I agree that she probably will win.
I'm torn between two, but I think just politically that she's the one that makes sense.
And do you think Olivia Colman's the backup? She's the closest, I think.
I think Olivia Colman's performance is... I haven't seen the Glenn Close movie, The Wife, so I can't really speak to it.
So your choice for should win is Olivia Colman?
It is for sure Olivia Colman. I was absolutely blown away by her performance. It's a really nuanced, it's very difficult. I mean, obviously, I think Rachel Weisz and Emma Stone do a really great job, but they're feeding off of Olivia Colman's energy, and it was a really powerful performance.
We've been a fan of her for years. Early on, we did an indie called Tyrannosaur from 2011 that she was in. This nomination's long overdue, and it is a good performance, but I have it in the supporting category. I have Olivia Colman in my top 5 in the supporting category. Glenn Close, though, is pretty amazing to me. Jim, sounds like you're in the Olivia Colman camp.
I am. That's and pretty much exactly for what Ryan said.
Does anybody agree with me that she should be in the supporting category?
I don't know. I think lead is right for Olivia Colman for this role, for The Favorite.
I could see an argument for it, but I also think that it feels right that she's in that Best Actress category.
She's the queen, I suppose. But yeah, no, I had her supporting. So you guys think Rachel Weisz and Olivia should have been counted in the leading category?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I already said I'm on the Glenn Close camp. And Jim, have you seen The Wife?
I've only seen about half of it. That was the movie. That was one of the movies that I was trying to cram in before.
Oh, it's funny
show.
because it's the second half that puts Glenn Close over the top for me. And I'm not even joking. That's what I was talking about, the revealing of the layers. I wonder.
I'll go back to it.
Again, the show is going to be up, so it's not going to do us any good.
I can write in the comments.
You can.
I was wrong. I wrote.
You were wrong. Yeah. Okay. Should have been nominated. It's time for Jimbo to go.
Toni Collette in Hereditary.
That's a popular choice. It's a horror movie, so I obviously refuse to watch it, so I can't comment.
She brings a full range to this psychologically damaged woman in a movie where you're not really sure if it's supernatural horror or psychological horror. And as it keeps going and the well keeps getting down and deeper, it turns truly terrifying. And she is the audience stand-in. I can't imagine being any different if I were in her shoes. It is just an amazing performance.
So Jim just prognosticated on what it would be like if he were playing the Toni Collette role in Hereditary. That's what I think I heard. Ryan, anything on Hereditary?
Haven't seen Hereditary, but it's definitely on my list.
It is not on my list. Never, ever, ever. So Ryan, Best Actress, who should have been nominated?
So I'm going to give it to Emily Blunt in A Quiet Place.
Another horror movie that I refuse to watch. So that's interesting.
I'd say thriller.
Ryan, I will say to you, she won the SAG Award for Supporting Actress. Most people are putting her in the supporting category.
I mean, I could see her in the supporting role. I don't know. That role, it stood out to me. I mean, I don't know where the distinction lies.
It's completely at your discretion. It's at the voters' discretion. You know?
I think she was insanely talented in that movie, and she's up against so many different things that she has to pull off, and she does it magnificently. She's such a talented actress, and I really think that showed in this movie.
Part of the discussion of why maybe she wasn't nominated is maybe some people put her in the leading and some people put her in the supporting, and maybe that's how she missed out. And also maybe some people put her for Mary Poppins altogether, so she actually potentially, theoretically, proof of this, canceled her.
Yeah.
Just throwing theories out there, but that's what the internet is for wild, outlandish theories like that. Jim, A Quiet Place?
I mean, I can definitely see it. I thought Emily Blunt was great.
Do you have an opinion on leading versus supporting for Emily Blunt in A Quiet Place?
No, I think she could fit the leading category.
Great. I haven't seen the movie. I will never watch the movie, so I have no opinion. And I'm sure you guys are happy about that because when I have opinions, they tend to, delay things. So, all right, my should have been nominated. I wonder if you guys saw this movie. This actress that I'm talking about here debuted in our year of 1988, where she gave a surprisingly strong performance. I've been critical of this Oscar winner over the years, but this year, 2018, she finally delivered on the promise she showed back in Mystic Pizza 30 years ago. Talking about Julia Roberts in Ben is Back, where she gives a complete, thorough, carefully executed, and detailed portrait of a desperate and fed-up mother trying to save her son from himself. In this movie, the movie star is gone and the actress returns in this terrific, highly underrated movie that most of you know made my top 5 last night. Julia Roberts in Ben is Back is by far, to me, the best leading performance I saw this year. Jim, I don't suppose you've seen Ben is Back.
I did not.
Ryan.
No.
More for your list, although frequently whenever I recommend movies, they don't write it down. When each other recommends movies, they write it down and want to see it. So I don't know if they'll actually go watch this one. For what it's worth, it also made George's top 10.
Oh, made George's top 10? I'll definitely watch it.
Yeah, I knew that was coming. All right, time to move on. See how fast we're going, Ryan?
No, it's great.
Best actor in a leading role. Okay, and so I've got one of these 5 nominees on my list of my top 5. So if I were a one-man nominating committee, one of these guys would make it. The rest would not. The winner, I believe, is going to be Rami Malek for his caricaturish impersonation of Freddie Mercury. I think it's going to be embarrassment to the Academy when he wins. Christian Bale's up there as well for another caricaturist impersonation. Looks like the tea leaves are heading towards Rami Malek. Are you guys on board? Is Rami Malek going to win is the first question.
I hope not.
He won the Golden Globes and the BAFTAs
I know.
and the SAG Awards.
Fine. Rami Malek will win.
Ryan, what do you think? In your Oscar pool, who do you put?
You know, I'd actually put Christian Bale, but that's just me.
You do think Christian Bale's going to upset him? Okay. One of the things teetering towards Rami is the fact that Christian Bale already has one. It's not in a leading role, however. It's in a supporting role. Christian Bale's the closest to him. Rami Malek has the edge. I'd say 60-40 towards Rami Malek. So an upset is what Ryan predicts. Let's see what you guys think should win here. I'll let Jim go first. You don't like Rami Malek. Who do you like?
I wasn't really blown away by most of the performances. I think I have to go Willem Dafoe at Eternity's Gate, just because of the rest of them.
I don't know why that explanation struck me as funny. I didn't particularly like him in this movie, but I think it's a script issue. I kept being told about his mental state instead of letting him show me as an actor. That's a movie issue. I was extremely bored by this movie, extremely disappointed. I wouldn't call it a bad performance, but I was frustrated that he kept telling me how crazy he was, and I never saw it. I didn't see it in the performance. The script didn't give him the opportunity to do it, so I didn't feel like I was getting enough from Willem Dafoe here. I wouldn't have even considered nominating him. Ryan, anything on At Eternity's Gate?
Haven't seen him.
Jim, do you have a rebuttal for my comments?
It wasn't the best movie, and there are script problems. I thought Willem Dafoe really got into it, though. Like, I liked it. I liked his performance despite every other aspect of that movie.
All right, well, that's something. Ryan, who would you choose?
I like Christian Bale. And I know that it's kind of more of an impersonation, like an SNL kind of thing. I get that. At the same time, completely was swept away by what he was doing. Completely forgot it was Christian Bale. It was a lot more nuanced. It leaned on the sense of caricature, but I thought he did a great job, and I think it's worthy of an Oscar.
I am less offended by his performance than Rami Malek's. I just hated the movie so much. It's my least favorite of the 8 Best Picture nominees, but I loved one of the performances in this category, which is I'm going to segue to myself because I can. And I think you guys know where I'm going with this because I have Viggo Mortensen in Green Book as my should win, and he's my second favorite male leading performance this year, behind what I'm going to say is my should have been nominated. I feel like on the surface, Tony the Lip also has the potential of being caricature, but I do think Viggo finds the humanity behind the facade. I mean, the stereotype obviously comes from somewhere. It's difficult to be asked to play someone like that and make it grounded. Viggo adopts the stereotype, but then adds the details underneath. Tony learns and grows so much on his journey, and actors shooting things out of order tend to make that switch feel unmotivated, their arc. Mortensen navigates it with precision, slowly and beautifully, making us love the character in spite of the stereotype. I actually think it's some remarkable work. Jim, you're a hater, I believe.
I mean, I feel like I'm just retreading. It was my general problem with Green Book as a movie. I did think that the performances were the best part of the movie, but I think overall it's just stuck me as kind of feeling it rang false to me. It rang as manufactured, and I couldn't get past that.
Okay. Yeah, no, we're on opposite ends of that. Ryan, you were a little nicer to Viggo earlier.
I love this performance. I think he, like you're saying, he took a caricature and made it actually sellable. So it could have easily been just a stereotype. And I mean, I love Viggo Mortensen as an actor too. So I definitely like the performance. I just picked Christian Bale over it for just the pure difficulty of it.
So you're not angry with me for my choice?
No.
All right, good. Ryan and I will still be friends for at least for a couple more categories. Ryan, you do get to go first for should have been nominated leading actor. Who do you got?
I'm going to say John David Washington for Black Klansman.
I felt a little cold from him, but I actually voted for him in the Spirit Awards as Best Supporting Actor for a film called Of Monsters and Men, an indie that he did, in which he was a standout. Didn't make my top 5 supporting performances, but based on the Indie Spirit nominees, he was the best. I didn't hate him in this movie. It just didn't feel particularly special. He played the role, though, and everything was believable. I just have a lot of these performances in my top 5 that I thought were extraordinary. Jim, anything on John David Washington?
He was definitely one of the actors I considered as my should have been nominated. I thought he deserved to be in that nomination pool more than a lot of the other people who have been nominated.
I don't agree, but I bet you I have a bunch of movies that you haven't seen that might have. Jim, so that's a good segue to who else? Who is your number 1 actor of the year?
I will say this again. Over the course of the year, I went back through the list a bunch of times, and it was hard for me to pare it down. But the opposite reason, I don't think that I was really blown away by any one performance all year. Not in the same way that I was by, say, Toni Collette or Ashley Atkinson.
Okay, once again, the disclaimer is clear. What's your choice?
I ended up going with Ryan Gosling in First Man.
Ryan Gosling in First Man is in my top 5. I think he's at number 4 or 5, if I remember correctly. So if I were a one-man nominating committee, I would have Ryan Gosling on that. I think it's a great choice. I think he's very subtle, nuanced, and masterful in a very quiet performance. I think it's really good. What do you have to say?
I thought he was very masterful in a nuanced performance. Thank you.
I'm glad something I say sticks. Ryan, what do you think about Ryan Gosling in First Man?
I liked it. He captured that pilot mentality very well. You don't show much on the outside what's going on the inside, and I thought that he did a really good job of that. I thought it was a solid performance.
Yeah, very thorough is the word that comes to mind when I think about his performance. I mean, I didn't love the movie First Man, but I would have given it at least 3 nominations. I think it's nominated in sound, which I would have done, but a score and lead actor for sure. One of you had Best Supporting Actress as well. I think it was Ryan. So,
yeah.
It feels like the Academy just watched like 20 movies this year and spread the nominations among those 20 movies. It was very weird.
I was actually going to ask you because of your Oscar, your breadth of Oscar knowledge.
My acumen?
Yeah. So for like the 48 nominations that we're going through tonight, it's something like 15 films are represented. Is it usually that dense? Because it doesn't often feel that dense.
No. I don't know how to explain it this year. But that's why we have our own awards, and these should have been nominated things so we can call out some of the things that aren't getting watched. I can't believe not enough people saw Ben is Back, and it has a major movie star in it, but it's kind of brilliant. Okay. So my turn for Best Actor should have been nominated. You guys ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. My Best Actor should have been nominated is an actor I also named the best of 2010 for his work on I'm Still Here. I'm talking about Joaquin Phoenix in the film You Were Never Really Here. And I saw that film back in April, and his performance remained on top ever since. As he tends to do, the amazing Phoenix goes all in for this role, creating a deep, tortured, fascinating character. I sometimes felt like director Lynn Ramsey's flashy choices got in his way, and that's why the film didn't make my top 10. But that doesn't take away from his detailed, highly compelling work. It's a tour de force performance. I can't believe it's been forgotten. This movie came and went for a lot of people. I don't know if anybody's ever seen it. Ryan?
No, I haven't seen it, but I've been wanting to.
Jim?
I have not seen it either.
That's why you were so not blown away by any of the performances. You missed Ben is Back, and You Were Never Really Here, and Widows. All right, so they didn't see it. They got nothing to say. I made my points. We're moving on to director, I think. 2 foreign film directors in this category. I do have one of my top 5 directors, if I were one-man nominating committee, is on this list, and it's the guy that I think will win. The 5th Best Director Oscar for a Mexican-born director in the last 6 years, and this guy's second. I think Alfonso Cuarón will win, and I think he should, in spite of what I've said about Roma so far. What I said last night when it came up is I didn't love Roma, but I really appreciated it. I can't deny that it's great filmmaking, which is why I have him as my 4th or 5th best director of the year. I just didn't care about the story. I love the long takes and the way he blocked the action without needing to cut too much, using the full depth of the frame. It's Wellesian kind of stuff. I wish he could take that same concept with a more interesting story or compelling characters. The artistry is outstanding. First, the question is, Ryan, do you think he will win?
I could see Spike Lee taking it.
Okay, so you think Spike Lee's going to upset him? Jim?
I also have Spike Lee as the upset.
Interesting. That would be something because Alfonso Cuarón has won everything. Like, he hasn't lost yet in any of the precursor awards.
I will say, I think Roma should win.
Jumping ahead on me, Jim.
I know, I'm jumping ahead.
This is one that I thought was a lock. So it's interesting that you guys feel differently. Ryan, you had Spike Lee will win. Do you think he should?
I mean, I honestly think Cuarón should probably. Yeah, I mean, you're probably right. I kind of thinking in terms of the political spectrum. So maybe I'm just not in touch with the previous lineup. Jason
Blum has been pounding the pavement hard for Spike Lee to win this award. There's just been no indication that that's going to happen.
That's fair.
But the only other time I remember that happening was 2002 when Roman Polanski won Best Director for The Pianist out of nowhere. And that's the opposite of a political reason for, you know what I mean?
Right.
Politically, he was the last one you choose to win that award. But he won it over Martin Scorsese was going to win for Gangs of New York. And because Rob Marshall, the director of Chicago, which won Best Picture that year, wasn't even nominated. So when Martin Scorsese was like, oh, this is the year they give it to Scorsese, and then they went to Polanski instead. So it's really interesting. That's the last time I remember being that shocked by a Best Director award where it didn't match anything. So I don't know. It's possible. There's occasional precedence for it, but Cuarón has swept everything: Golden Globes, DGA award, which is a big one, and BAFTAs. Jim, it sounds like you agree with me and Ryan that he should win.
Cuarón, yeah, absolutely. For a lot of the reasons, again, that you said. I love the long, slow takes. I love the way that the actors are staged. I think I was a little bit more engaged in the story.
We all agree Cuarón should win, but for your Oscar ballots, you got to choose who you're going to go with. Just remember, I was 9 for 9 last year. Jim, who do you have as who should have been nominated here?
So I went again with Annihilation and Alex Garland.
You really, really like this movie. I can't believe I missed it.
He's able to use a combination of these nice, long, slow takes where you get to see these characters go through this entire emotional journey in a scene. He lets this work breathe, where I think that the natural, in this sort of science fiction-y world, the natural instinct would be to sort of speed up the cuts and work in and do little jumpy scares, where he's a much more patient director with it. And I think it really paid off in the movie.
Interesting. Ryan, do you want to respond about Annihilation? You liked it too, right? It was
Yeah, I could definitely see that, and I would be completely understanding if you got a nomination for that.
What do you have?
I'm gonna go with Carlos Lopez Estrada for Blind Spotting.
It didn't make my top 5, but I liked the film very, very much.
I just thought he had a really great approach to the whole film, letting the actors free, letting their chemistry run. Felt tight, but it also felt loose at the same, like in terms of free performances, but also like very tightly structured, and the pacing was really strong. Covers a lot of different topics, and it's a difficult thing to talk about. Specifically, one scene at the end where he kind of lets the lead run wild in this poetic rap. You couldn't look away. I thought it was really, really powerful.
That sequence bumped for me. Like that's that sequence, that moment is like the biggest drawback of the film for me, because I was so into it and I was like, this feels a little over the top, OTT as I like to say. Not so much that it's one of those things that maybe pushed it. Of all the films I watched this year, like Blind Spotting stayed with me, nearly made my top 10. And a lot of these directors I've seen and heard from before. So Estrada is the one that stands out as like the film I've seen. I haven't seen anything else from him. So it's like a debut, or if it's not his official debut, it's the debut to me. And so he's someone to keep an eye on for me. It's a good choice. He didn't make my top 5, but I like the film a lot, and I can support that choice. Jim, Blind Spotting keeps coming up.
I know. I'm going to have to watch it.
Okay, so we've got Annihilation and Blind Spotting should have been nominated for Best Director. And I've got something that Jim hates. And I'm going to go with the same director that Davey named Best Director of 2015. And this director's film was nominated for Best Picture. It's the other Best Picture nominee that I had in my top 10. And I'm talking about Ryan Coogler's work in Black Panther. Like my number 1 film last year, I interpret Black Panther to be less about racism and more about the disappearing of global borders, as Wakanda learns that its isolation might be limiting its own potential, and that maybe what it can offer to the rest of the world might help a lot of people. Cooperation over fear and distrust. A film that can accomplish this and still be exciting and entertaining is a major accomplishment to me. Ryan Coogler strikes just the right balance between the message and the action, and the result is a film that both pleases the critics and mass audiences. In Black Panther is the strongest I saw this year. Jim, you disagree.
Not as much as you might think. I really did like Black Panther. I completely understand the choice for Ryan Coogler as director. I was worried you were going to say Green Book.
I didn't have Peter Fallery in my top 5 directors.
I totally get Black Panther being in there for directing.
Ryan?
It resonated so well with a wide audience, but also I felt like elevated the general superhero movie in a lot of ways.
It's some good stuff. And I like some other superhero movies that I feel like do something similar. I feel like Age of Ultron, Captain America Civil War, Captain America the Winter Soldier, and X-Men First Class also tend to elevate its material to be about something more. Those films all made top 10s in the past as well for me. But this is the first one to have a Best Picture nominee, and I do think Ryan Coogler. And I feel like Jon Favreau deserved a nomination back in 2008 for Iron Man. Guys, we're getting to the big one. And, by the time we get to the big one, we probably know what we're going to say. Out of these nominees, you probably figured out, I've got 2 of these nominees in my top 10. None of them in my top 5, but since there can be 10 nominees, I've got 2 of them in my top 10 this year. And probably know which ones they are at this point. In terms of what will win, this and cinematography, out of the nominees we're talking about tonight, I think are the closest categories. What I think will win, right now, everything's pointing towards Roma winning, which would be quite a feat. It's between Roma and Green Book, at least that's what the word is on the street, and it looks like Roma's pulling ahead. It's never happened for a foreign language film to achieve that, and that might be the thing that's holding it back. Hollywood is famously xenophobic in the past, but maybe that's changing as a message to President Trump or something. I'm not exactly sure. Ryan, do you agree that Roma will take this home?
Ah, man, that's a tough one. I feel like there's no real easy standout like there's been in the past. Green Book has some detractors with it, and the Academy's going to go with Roma. And I think it's going to go with Roma as a political statement, too.
Jim, what will win in your Oscar pool?
I think Roma will win.
He's got Roma winning as well. Yeah, it's funny, the Green Book detractors, it seems very hollow to me, but, you know, it's like campaigning for politics. That sort of stuff is put out by the opposing studios, you know, the sort of negative publicity. It's interesting to see how it all plays out. But yeah, so it sounds like we're agreed on Roma. Should Roma win? What's your favorite out of these nominees, Ryan?
This is another tough one, and I've thought a lot about it. I'm like, the same answer. There's no real standout to me that I'm like, I would, fight for this to win. I guess today, I feel like it changes every day. I'm like, but I think today, Black Klansman maybe. Because
do you like how he said that with authority? How he is so.
Like I said, I flip-flopped a lot, and I think right now I'm feeling it because I just remember the theater experience and how impactful that was when I watched it. Just especially with the ending and tying it into today.
Did you need that, Ryan? I'm not saying anything about you. My issue with the film is Spike Lee itself. I feel like Spike Lee took a potentially really good script and ruined it with his own need to hit us over the head. And what I said last night is he's consistently, except for maybe Inside Man, treats an audience as if we're children. And certainly there's a lot of justified rage there. But when you're storytelling, he strips it out of takes away all nuance and feels the need to rub your face in the sand till you get it. Wake up is his famous phrase in all his movies. It ruins it for me personally. Like, I want to see the depth and the nuance. I don't want to be pandered to. So that's my issue with Black Klansman, as with almost all Spike Lee movies. And in fairness, his 1988 movie was School Days, and I watched them one day after another as part of it, preparing for this project. And so I was particularly sensitive to it, but because it's the same thing with School Days. He beats you over the head, and that to me does not make for a good movie-going experience.
My personal opinion is that you needed that. This is one of the times when we needed that, and I felt like most people, especially I was watching it with people in the audience.
You're talking about in this day and age, we needed it?
Yeah, I would say that people look at this and they say how far away this is, look at how different this is, and then you tie this into the marches, and you're like, wait, that's this year. And I think out of all the heavy-handedness, like, this is one of those times where I felt like it really hit home, and it did kind of was a kind of a wake-up call to the audience of like, we're not past this period in history as much as we think.
You need it. You, Ryan Turner, need to make that connection for it to land, or did you get it from the movie itself?
I think I would have gotten the point, but I think that served an extra point. It's easy to view KKK and these period racist movies as like these things that you kind of walk away from. You're like, wow, wasn't that bad how it used to be? As an audience member, what that did was it just tied it into today in a way that I felt like made it very relevant.
I mean, I see your point, but I didn't personally need it to be tied in today. I understand the parallels without having been forced down my throat personally. I see what you're saying, and Jim, you're nodding vociferously. Do you also think this should win?
Not only do I think that Black Klansman should win, because of the way that film ends, that is what makes it the winner for me. I think sometimes you need a sledgehammer. I think sometimes that point needs it, and especially the 10 minutes before the ending, where he deliberately goes out of his way to what I almost thought was a dream sequence of everything just turning out right, of leading up to how the case ended and everybody's friendly, like that whole sequence of giving us a standard Hollywood ending, and then right up until like the last shot of the story, and then into that little coda sequence, where it's just like, no, you don't get that. And here's, as Ryan was saying, it's not different. It's not changed. And we can lull this into a false sense of security. And this one happy ending does not erase all of the many not happy endings.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously I disagree. I think it's sloppy filmmaking, but it's just me. I don't mind being challenged, but I want to be respected as a viewer. Like, you know what I mean? I disagree with the sledgehammer. It was your analogy, and I disagree with it wholeheartedly. That's not how I want movies to be. I think that's bad art.
I mean, I think it's a choice. I don't think everything has to be nuanced.
You know, we're just going to agree to disagree on this. Sure. So you guys can, I think, predict what I'm going to choose here for should win.
Obviously, A Star is Born from the way that you've been talking about it all evening.
No, it's my third favorite, but no.
The favorite is your favorite. The favorite is your favorite. So that's it.
The favorite's in 6th place out of the 8 nominees.
Wow.
Obviously, it's a Green Book, my number 7 film on my top 10 last night, if you watched that. So Green Book is my favorite of these for all the reasons I mentioned before. It's cookie cutter, but it's done to perfection. It's really executed well. A good story, well told, like I said before. It's not going to be an all-time favorite. Like, it's number 7 on a top 10 in a year I didn't love. I'm not trying to backpedal, but I had 6 other movies I loved a lot more. But I like this film a lot. I really enjoyed watching it. I think we've said everything that needs to be said about it. Jim thought it was saccharine. Ryan thought it was good and entertaining, but not outstanding. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
What should have been nominated, Jim? What is your favorite film of the year?
Oh, can we fight about this again? I actually looked this up, so I had to do a little research to make sure that my choice would be okay. And I worried because you'd already brought it up before.
Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
It was also James's number 1 film from last night. And so I can tell you what I told him. I thought it was one of the worst movies I saw this year. I hated it so much. And basically, it's the premise that bothers me. I can appreciate the animation and the different styles of the visual work done, and some of the voice acting I thought was good. The premise really bumped for me, so I was not on board for this at all. The film was loud and annoying and obnoxious, and any message that it had about inclusion was forced. Another film like BlacKkKlansman, I found it pandering and frustrating and weak and completely uninteresting. And I'm totally a minority here. It's going to win the animated Oscar. It was James's favorite film as well. And I knew this was coming from you. But I actually really, really hated this movie.
I'm sorry. What about the premise?
I'm confused. Like, all the dimensions, like it was not, I was not buying it. Like, it's like the suspension of disbelief thing. I was not on board. You know what I mean? Like, so the whole thing, and the other thing, I thought it was too fast. It was too loud. I just felt like it was obnoxious, unpleasant, literally unpleasant experience. Like, it was painful.
Spider-Verse had hope and heart.
This is just an emotional connection issue. We're different people, and I just didn't connect to it at all. Like, I felt nothing, was not on board for this ride, especially with another masterpiece of an animated film out there. Ralph Breaks the Internet was my number 3 film of the year, and I just think it's a work of art.
I thought Ralph Breaks the Internet was a great film.
It's disappointing that it's going to lose the animated film to me, but I know you like Spider-Man. I knew that was coming. Ryan, you want to break the tie on Spider-Man?
I liked it. I'm a Spider-Man fan, so I also just thought it was fiercely original. And
Spider-Man is my favorite. Like, I am obsessed with Spider-Man, but all the more reason why I was frustrated. Like, I did not, I'm a huge fan, but I didn't connect with this movie at all. Like, it felt almost like a betrayal.
Well, I liked it.
I get that impression. Ryan, what should have been nominated?
I'm going to give it to Blind Spotting just because across the board, I just thought it was a movie that is going to stick with me for years. I think 10 years from now, I'm still going to remember it. It was just a really fun experience, and I thought it touches on a lot of really important political issues today, and in a way, gentrification, police brutality, racism, and it does it in a very nuanced and in a way that I feel like is very approachable. I think the point of the Academy is to shine a spotlight on movies just like that. I could totally see that as a movie that would be on Best Picture. It should be. It
didn't make my top 10. It just missed. Like, I literally swapped some things at the last minute. I'm very excited that you liked it. I liked it very much. What held it for my top 10 is nitpicky stuff. The Daveed Diggs was a little weak. Like, he didn't feel at home in his own body the way Rafael Casal did, performance-wise. I think he was nominated for the Spirit Award because I thought they felt like the rap was impressive, and it was impressive that he did it, but I actually did, my other small issue with it is it felt out of place in the movie. Like a movie that's, to your point, is really nuanced throughout the first 4/5. Like this rat thing takes place very late in the movie. This feels like veering into Spike Lee territory. But what I said earlier, I'll repeat, because BlacKkKlansman we just talked about, I feel like this is the shining example of what BlacKkKlansman could have been. I mean, in dealing with a lot of the same issues, I think Blind Spotting does it in a much more grounded and visceral way that proves my point earlier. I think proves that you don't need the sledgehammer. You know what I mean? Like, you can make the point and let the audience figure things out for themselves. Blind Spotting to me is a ton more complex emotionally in terms of the political issues than BlacKkKlansman.
I think it's a different approach, and I obviously disagreed with your perspective on the way BlacKkKlansman approached it, but I think that I really like the approach of this movie, and I could see why you're saying that.
Thanks. All right, so now it's time for my. These guys did not watch the top 10 last night, so they have no idea what my number one movie of the year is. I wonder if they can guess. Do you guys have guesses based on what we've talked about so far tonight?
Julia Roberts
theory. He says Ben is Back. He couldn't even remember the name of it.
I don't know. I don't know what you're going to say.
Ben is Back was my number 5, so it would be a Best Picture nominee. And my number 1, what I think should have been nominated, and I would have had it nominated in several categories, is a movie that's a terrific thriller executed with precision, skill, and artfulness. Ladies and gentlemen, Widows by director Steve McQueen was my number 1 movie of the year. It has an outstanding twist that I did not see coming. The multiple perspectives in the film is actually an asset here instead of a hindrance. The editing team found just the right balance, allowing McQueen to weave a thorough tapestry of that part of Chicago. Top-notch performances all around. We understand and feel the motivations of pretty much all the characters, and there are many of them, and that's quite an achievement and very satisfying. Even if we don't root for anybody, we understand their point of view. This film to me is about duality in a way. No one is completely good and no one is completely bad. Everyone is to blame, which isn't as dark as it sounds. It just feels human, truly human. And as a result, it's a film about so much: racism, classism, feminism, ambition, power, familial dynamics, corruption, and more. And my number 1 movie of the year, and the film that I feel like should have been nominated for Best Picture, and it was not. These guys have not seen it.
Nope.
Tonight, as soon as we're done, I'm going to go watch it.
As a bonus for you Oscar poolers, we're going to go through some of the craft categories now that we went through the major categories, and I'm the only one that prepared for this, so I'm going to go through it very quickly, lightning round as it were, with some of the crafts categories. Will win, should have been nominated very quickly, or at least will win and should win in some cases. First, makeup. But I think Vice is going to win, and this is one where I think it deserves it. Probably the best makeup I saw this year. It's the one thing I'll say about one of my least favorite movies. Vice is going to win makeup, and it should, and I've got no other comments in that category. Costume design, I think the favorite is going to win here. I think Black Panther should, out of the nominees, but actually another comic book movie, Aquaman, had my favorite costumes of 2018. I didn't love the movie, but costume-wise, I had to acknowledge that was quite a feat there. So Aquaman, I feel like, was the best costume design of 2018. Best song, Shallow, will win and should win. It is the best song from a movie that I saw. Again, I saw the movie a year and a half ago, and the first note I wrote after seeing the movie, I predicted Shallow would win the Oscar, and I think I'm still right. Score, I think If Beale Street Could Talk is going to win here, and I like the score. It actually made my top 5, but the one that I am missing here, the best score of the year to me, is Justin Hurwitz's work in First Man, and I think I mentioned that earlier in the evening. First Man, I think, is the best score of the year, and it should have been nominated and should have won. Production design, the favorite is going to win in this category. Put that in your ballot. The one that I think should win is Mary Poppins Returns. Out of the nominees, some really strong set work there, and is a top 5 for me. I have an out-of-the-box choice for I think what should have been nominated here and was the best production design, because it's a comedy and not even a good one, that it wouldn't get acknowledged, but the set work is really detailed. The Spy Who Dumped Me had a lot of great set works, and just because it didn't take place in another period does not mean it's good production design. I think it was some great work. Memorable, otherwise bad movie. Editing, because of the style of the film, Vice, I think, is going to win the Best Editing Oscar. My favorite of those 5 nominees is Green Book. It's the best out of the 5 nominees. The best editing I saw overall this year is Ben is Back. Some great work with parallel action in Ben is Back, and that to me should have been nominated and should have won. Documentary, I think Free Solo is going to win. The one I think should win is my number 2 movie of the year. Minding the Gap was the best documentary I've seen in a long time. I don't think it's going to win, but I think it should. And that's where I am on craft categories. We are going to wrap things up at this point. Do you guys have any closing thoughts? Ryan, anything you want to say to the audience?
Yeah, I think this is a strange year for film in the sense of I did enjoy my theater-going experiences, but it seems like there's not any crazy standouts.
There are so many movies going over the list that you provided and what we've talked about tonight that I didn't get a chance to see that now I am excited to go and see.
Ryan, this is supposedly, I thought it was going to be your last show. You flirted with coming out of retirement, but do you have anything you want to say as a farewell to the fans of the No Name Cinema Society?
No, I think what you put on, JB, is always great, and I think they should continue watching it because you're a rare encyclopedic, something about that, some word like that. But knowledge of film is rare, and I think you have a lot of great things to say, and you put on a great show. So continue watching.
So he's saying, even though he's not on, you should watch it. Even though most of you watch for his cute little face there. Look how cute he is. So our finale episodes continue tomorrow night with our 1988 review. That'll be at 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific. We're going to go over the films of 1988. We're going to go over several categories from that Oscar race. It's going to be a very intense discussion with Devin and Alex. Tune in tomorrow night, and we will see you then. The Oscar preview is over. 1988 coming tomorrow. See you.